Late one night, a man is speeding down an empty road. A cop sees him go flying past, so he chases him and pulls him over. The cop goes up to the car, and when the man rolls down the window, he asks, "Are you aware of how fast you were going, sir?" The man replies, "Yes, I am. I'm trying to escape a robbery I got involved in." The cop looks at him disbelievingly and asks him, "Were you the one being robbed, sir?" The man casually replies, "Oh no, I was the one who committed the robbery. I was escaping." The cop is shocked and surprised that the man has admitted this so freely. He says, "So you're telling me you were speeding and committed a robbery?" "Oh yes," replies the man calmly. "I have all the loot in the back." The cop is now starting to get angry and says, "Sir, I'm afraid you have to come with me," as he reaches into the window to take the car keys out of the ignition. The man shouts, "Don't do that! I'm afraid that you'll find the gun in my glove compartment." At this, the cop pulls his hand out of the window and says, "Wait here," as he returns to his car and calls for backup. Soon there are cars, cops, and helicopters everywhere. The man is quickly dragged out of his car, handcuffed, and taken towards a cop car. However, just before he is put in the car and taken away, a cop walks up to him and says, "Sir, this officer tells us that you had committed a robbery, had stolen loot in the trunk of your car, and had a loaded gun in your glove compartment. However, we didn't find any of these things in your car." The man replies, "Yeah, I bet that liar said I was speeding too." 1. A doctor at an insane asylum decided to take his patients to a baseball game. For weeks in advance, he coached his patients to respond to his commands. When the day of the game arrived, everything went quite well. As the national anthem started, the doctor yelled, "Up nuts!" and the patients complied by standing up. After the anthem, he yelled, "Down nuts!" and they all sat back down in their seats. After a home run was hit, the doctor yelled, "Cheer nuts!" They all broke out into applause and cheered. When the umpire made a particularly bad call against the star of the home team, the doctor yelled, "Boo nuts!" and they all started booing and catcalling. Comfortable with their response, the doctor decided to go get a beer and a hot dog, leaving his assistant in charge. When he returned, there was a riot in progress. Finding his missing assistant, the doctor asked, "What in the world happened?" The assistant replied, "Well, everything was going just fine until this guy walked by and yelled, 'Peanuts!'" 2. At a crowded bus stop, a beautiful young woman in a tight leather mini skirt with matching tight leather boots and jacket was waiting for the bus. As the bus rolled up and it became her turn to get on, she became aware that her skirt was too tight to allow her leg to come up to the height of the first step on the bus. Slightly embarrassed and with a quick smile to the bus driver, she reached behind and unzipped her skirt a little, thinking that this would give her enough slack to raise her leg. Again, she tried to make the step onto the bus, only to discover she still couldn't. So, a little more embarrassed, she once again reached behind and unzipped her skirt a little more, and for a second time attempted the step, and once again, still, she could not raise her leg because of the tight skirt. With a coy little smile to the driver, she again unzipped the offending skirt to give a little more slack, and again was unable to make the step. About this time, a big Texan that was behind her in the line picked her up easily from the waist and placed her lightly on the step of the bus. Well, she went ballistic and turned on the would-be hero, screeching at him, "How dare you touch my body? I don't even know who you are!" At this, the Texan drawled, "Well, ma'am, normally I would agree with you, but after you unzipped my fly 3 times, I kind of figured that we were friends." 3. While the Pope was visiting the USA, he told the driver of his limo that he had the sudden urge to drive. The driver was a good Catholic man and would not ever dream of questioning the Pope's authority. So the Pope sat at the wheel while his driver got in the back. They were traveling down the road doing between 70 and 80 mph when a policeman happened to see them. As he pulled them over, he called into headquarters reporting a speeding limo, with a VIP inside it. The chief asked, "Who is in the limo? The mayor?" The policeman told him, "No, someone more important than the mayor." Then the chief asked, "Is it the governor?" The policeman answered, "No, someone more important than the governor." The chief finally asked, "Is it the president?" The policeman answered, "No, someone even more important than the president." This made the chief very angry, and he bellowed, "Now who is more important than the president?" The policeman calmly whispered, "I'll put it to you this way, chief. I don't know who is this guy, but he has the Pope as his chauffeur." 4. A guy walks into a dimly lit bar on a Friday night, feeling a bit adventurous. He spots a stunning woman sitting alone at the bar, nursing a drink. Gathering his courage, he strolls up to her and asks with a confident smile, "May I buy you a drink?" She looks him up and down, clearly unimpressed, but with a hint of curiosity, she replies, "Okay, but it won't do you any good." Undeterred, he orders her a drink, and they chat for a while. After a bit, trying to keep the conversation flowing, he asks, "May I buy you another drink?" She raises an eyebrow, smirking slightly, and says, "Okay, but it still won't do you any good." The night progresses, and they continue talking. Despite her initial aloofness, they seem to be having a good time. Eventually, feeling bold and hoping for a chance to get to know her better, he asks, "Would you like to come up to my apartment for a nightcap?" She gives him a long, scrutinizing look, then shrugs and replies, "Okay, but it won't do you any good." They make their way to his apartment, where he pours them both a drink. As they sit on the couch, he looks at her with genuine admiration and says, "You know, you are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I want you for my wife." She pauses, looking genuinely surprised for the first time all night. Then with a wry smile, she says, "Oh, that's different. Send her in." 5. On a stormy night, a gypsy man's truck broke down on a country road. He found a farmhouse and knocked on the door. The farmer answered the door, and the gypsy told him, "Sir, my truck broke down on the road. I was wondering if it would be all right if I slept in your barn tonight. If there's any work you need done, I will do it." The farmer said, "There's no need for that. I have plenty of room in my home. You can sleep in my spare bedroom tonight." The gypsy came into the house. The farmer made him dinner, and they had some drinks. The next morning, the gypsy thanked the farmer. Again, he told the farmer if there was any work that the farmer needed, that he would do it. The farmer told him he didn't need any work done. The gypsy said, "You know I'm a gypsy. I have the power to talk to animals. Let me talk to your animals, and I will tell you what they are thinking." The farmer was skeptical, but he agreed to let the gypsy talk to his animals. A while later, the gypsy returned to the house. He told the farmer, "I talked to some of your animals. Do you want to know what they told me?" The farmer said, "Sure. What did they tell you?" The gypsy said, "Well, I talked to your horses. They said that you recently changed the bits that you use. The bit you use now really hurts their mouths." The farmer said, "Wow, that's right. I did change their bits. I'll change them back." The gypsy said, "I talked to the cows. They said that you increased the pressure on the milking machines. It's really uncomfortable for them now." The farmer said, "Well, I did change the pressure. I'll change it back." The gypsy said, "I also talked to the sheep." The farmer got upset. He shouted, "Those sheep are damn liars. You can't believe a word they say." The conductor came in and began checking the tickets of the passengers. He approached the lady sitting in the first seat. She didn't have a ticket. The conductor fined her $20 even though the ticket cost $40 because she was wearing a small skirt and he could see most of her leg. He then came up to the lady in the second seat. She too didn't have a ticket. He fined her only $10 as she was wearing an even smaller skirt and he could see almost her entire leg. He went up to the third seat. Same story. The lady sitting here didn't have a ticket, but this time he got just $5 because she was in a bikini and he could see everything. When he got to the lady in the last seat, he didn't find her anything at all. That's because she was carrying a ticket, you perverts. 8. A man drove over to his neighbor's house and knocked on the door. A boy, about 8, opened the door. "Is your mom or dad home?" the man asked the boy. "No, they went into town," the boy replied. "Well, how about your brother Howard?" the man asked. "No, he went with mom and dad," the boy said. The man stood there for a minute, shifting from one foot to another and mumbling when the boy said, "I know where the tools are if you need to borrow one, or I could give my dad a message for you." "Well," the man said uncomfortably, "I wanted to talk to your dad about your brother Howard getting my sister pregnant." The boy thought for a moment, then said, "You'll have to talk to my dad about that. I know he charges $500 for the bulls and $150 for the pigs, but I have no idea how much he charges for Howard." 1. An old man was walking in the desert with his donkey when he reached a village. The people welcomed him with everything they could, offering him hospitality, taking care of his donkey, and feeding him. While having dinner, he was surprised to be offered camel milk, as it is of notoriously bad taste. He thus asked about it and was told that the village had been cursed with an everlasting drought and that the people had resorted to saving however little water they could find for crops. "Truth be told, I am one of the wise," he said. "I know how to bring you rain. However, you must first bring me a wide bucket full of water, for I need some to bring more." The next morning, all of the villagers heard of his saying and started collecting every drop of water they still had in reserve. In the end, there was barely enough to qualify for a bucket, and they gave it to the man. He then took the water and walked into his host's house. There, he took off his dirty clothes and started washing them. A curious one of the kids saw him through the window and went on to alert everyone around. By the time they arrived, angry and shouting, it was already too late. The old man had washed all his clothes and was calmly hanging them. "Shame, shame on you, old man, for wasting our water when our kids don't have enough to drink," growled the chief. But as soon as he finished speaking, the sky darkened as the clouds gathered around the village. It started raining, and it did not stop for 5 days straight. People got their fill, and everyone's reserves were overflowing. The old man was treated as a guest of honor and a hero, and the chief apologized profusely for ever doubting him. Only when he was about to leave had the kid gathered the courage to ask about how he did it. "It's simple," said the old man. "This always happens when I hang my clothes to dry." 2. A big city lawyer was representing the railroad in a lawsuit filed by an old rancher. The rancher's prize bull was missing from the section through which the railroad passed. The rancher only wanted to be paid the fair value of the bull. The case was scheduled to be tried before the justice of the peace in the back room of the general store. The attorney for the railroad immediately cornered the rancher and tried to get him to settle out of court. The lawyer did his best-selling job, and finally the rancher agreed to take half of what he was asking. After the rancher had signed the release and took the check, the young lawyer couldn't resist gloating a little over his success, telling the rancher, "You know, I hate to tell you this, old man, but I put one over on you in there. I couldn't have won the case. The engineer was asleep and the fireman was in the caboose when the train went through your ranch that morning. I didn't have one witness to put on the stand. I bluffed you." The old rancher replied, "Well, I'll tell you, young feller, I was a little worried about winning that case myself because that bull came home this morning." 3. I was at the bus stop today, and a young blonde in a short skirt boarded the bus. She didn't have enough money for the fare, so she hitched up her skirt. The driver took one look and waved her on the bus. The next day, I thought I'd try the same. My bus came along. I got on and showed the driver a bit of leg. He immediately called the police, so I put the bit of leg back in the black bag and ran off. 4. A man was waiting for a bus one day when he noticed a young blonde woman digging a hole, and another blonde immediately filled the hole back in with dirt. He watches as they move up the street, doing this over and over again. The first blonde digs a hole, and the second one fills the dirt right back in. After a few minutes, he decides to ask them, "Excuse me, what are you ladies doing?" "We're working," the first blonde replies. "Just the two of you?" he inquires. "Well," the second blonde chimes in, "there's usually three of us, but the girl that plants the trees called out sick. 5. One afternoon, 6-year-old little Johnny bursts into the living room where his father is reading the newspaper. With a determined look on his face and his hands on his hips, Johnny proudly announces, "Daddy, I've decided I want to get married." His father, trying to hide his amusement, peeks over the top of his newspaper and asks, "Oh, really, son? That's quite a decision. Do you have anyone special in mind?" Johnny nods enthusiastically, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yes, Daddy, I want to marry Grandma." Taken aback, his father sets his newspaper aside, folds it neatly, and places it on the coffee table. He leans forward, trying to keep a straight face, and says, "Now, wait a minute, Johnny. You don't think I'd let you marry my mother, do you?" Johnny, with a puzzled expression, tilts his head and looks at his father. "Why not, Daddy? You married mine." 1. Reaching the end of a job interview, the human resources officer asks a young engineer fresh out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, "And what starting salary are you looking for?" The engineer replies, "In the region of $125,000 a year, depending on the benefits package." The interviewer inquires, "Well, what would you say to a package of 5 weeks vacation, 14 paid holidays, full medical and dental, company matching retirement fund to 50% of salary, and a company car leased every 2 years, say, a red Corvette?" The engineer sits up straight and says, "Wow, are you kidding?" The interviewer replies, "Yeah, but you started it." 2. A lawyer runs a stop sign and gets pulled over by a sheriff. He thinks he's smarter being a big-shot lawyer from New York and has a better education than a sheriff from West Virginia. The sheriff asks for license and registration. The lawyer asks, "What for?" The sheriff responds, "You didn't come to a complete stop at the stop sign." The lawyer says, "I slowed down and no one was coming." "You still didn't come to a complete stop. License and registration, please," say the sheriff impatiently. The lawyer says, "If you can show me the legal difference between slow down and stop, I'll give you my license and registration and you can give me the ticket. If not, you let me go and don't give me the ticket." The sheriff says, "That sounds fair. Please exit your vehicle." The lawyer steps out and the sheriff takes out his nightstick and starts beating the lawyer with it. The sheriff says, "Do you want me to stop or just slow down?" 3. A doctor and a lawyer are talking at a party. Their conversation is constantly interrupted by people describing their ailments and asking the doctor for free medical advice. After an hour of this, the exasperated doctor asks the lawyer, "What do you do to stop people from asking you for legal advice when you're out of the office?" "I give it to them," replies the lawyer, "and then I send them a bill." The doctor is shocked, but agrees to give it a try. The next day, still feeling slightly guilty, the doctor prepares the bills. When he goes to place them in his mailbox, he finds a bill from the lawyer. 6. A local United Way office realized that the organization had never received a donation from the town's most successful lawyer. The person in charge of contributions called him to persuade him to contribute. "Our research shows that out of a yearly income of at least $500,000, you did not give a penny to charity. Wouldn't you like to give back to the community in some way?" The lawyer mulled this over for a moment and replied, "First, did your research also show that my mother is dying after a long illness and has medical bills that are several times her annual income?" Embarrassed, the United Way rep mumbled, No." The lawyer interrupts, "Or that my brother, a disabled veteran, is blind and confined to a wheelchair?" The stricken United Way rep began to stammer out an apology, but was interrupted again. "Or that my sister's husband died in a traffic accident," the lawyer's voice rising in indignation, "leaving her penniless with 3 children?" The humiliated United Way rep, completely beaten, said simply, "I had no idea." On a roll, the lawyer cut him off once again, So if I don't give any money to them, why should I give any to you?